It gives me great pleasure to invite you all to the 5th India Forum of China at Goa, organized by the Institute of Chinese Studies, New Delhi, in partnership with the India office of Conrad Adenauer-Stiftung and in collaboration with Goa University. The theme of the forum this year is the Communist Party of China in the New Era. As China increasingly appears to be poised at the helm of global geopolitics, changes within the party are not merely of significance to the people of China, but they have vital implications for the world at large. This forum is devoted to exploring and debating a wide variety of themes ranging from the party's strengths and challenges to its regional and international role. Over the next 2 days, we'll be having around 40 China experts covering a wide range of issues through 6 sessions. We now begin with the inaugural session. Chairing the session is Professor Alka Acharya, Director of the Institute of Chinese Studies, New Delhi, and Professor at the Center of East Asian Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. May I request you to take the floor, please?
Santishree, Pandit, Vice-Chancellor, Jawaharlal Nehru University. I begin again. Thank you, Diksha. Professor Santishree Dhulipudi Pandit, Vice-Chancellor, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Professor Aparajita Gangopadhyay, Dean and Professor, School of International and Area Studies, Goa University. And Mr. Adrian, Haack, Director, Konrad, Adenauer-Stiftung, Delhi. Respected scholars, delegates, leading public intellectuals, policy practitioners, both civilian and military, media personnel participating in this conference from India and abroad, esteemed invitees, students and researchers. To all of you, I wish a very, very good morning and extend a warm welcome to the 5th India Forum on China at Goa, hosted by the Institute of Chinese Studies and Konrad Adenauer-Stiftung in cooperation with Goa University in these beautiful and soporific environs of Goa. The IFC is an annual international conference which brings together the best minds from diverse backgrounds to debate, deliberate, consider and engage each other over a variety of aspects emerging from the theme of the conference, which, as the very name of the conference is, Steer for Aid to China. It was in the fitness of things that the 5th IFC at Goa should focus on one of the most discussed and speculated upon events the world over, the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. With a membership of more than 96 million, the CPC has the distinction of being the largest political party in the world, presiding over the destinies of the largest population in the world, or in any country. Well, may change soon. With the growing clout of the PRC, its rising profile, its quote-unquote rise, the party state's role, impact, and significance will, indeed has, transcended the national borders. Over the course of the next 2 days, 6 sessions of this forum will bring out nuanced and insightful aspects pertaining to the CPC and its governing ideology. Themes such as party governance and leadership, ideas and narratives, the party's global interests, the party and the economy, the party's narrative building abroad, and regional policy will be explored at length. Our objective is to assess how these different dimensions help us to understand the, quote, new era, unquote, that is now the dominant paradigm in China, politically, ideologically, socially, and economically. More specifically, what does new era mean in the era of Xi Jinping? When Mao stood on the ramparts of Tiananmen, on the 1st of October 1949, he announced the birth of a new China. Deng Xiaoping's reforms earned him the reputation of having ushered in a new China yet again. The post-1989 Tiananmen Square incident was seen as the watershed for yet another new China, which was produced and packaged in the globalization era of the 1990s. Xi Jinping has now officially and statutorily inaugurated the new era. This theme of new that has run consistently and continuously in China since 1949 has had different meanings and implications throughout, from 1949 to the present. We have depicted this journey on the cover of our brochure, and it is, of course, up to our perceptions as to how we would like to interpret this, whether it is a continuity from liberation to riches to power, or whether it is to be seen in terms of a thesis, antithesis, and yet another new synthesis which is indeed generating contradictions even as we speak. So we look forward to an exciting interaction over the next 2 days. But the most exciting aspect of the 5th IFC, as far as we, the organizers, are concerned, is that we revert to the offline mode after a hiatus of 3 years. Although the pandemic blighted pretty much a whole lot of things in our lives, it did enable access to a number of notable scholars and personalities all over the world sitting in our respective offices and rooms, whom we would not have had an opportunity to hear otherwise. However, we took a deliberate decision to go offline, not even hybrid, though I suspect that may well become the feature of the future conferences. But this was a way to restore human agency to academic dialogue, to once again revel in the joys of a face-to-face interaction, go about splitting hairs over tea and coffee, and iron out differences over dinner. The gathering here today is testimony to the correctness of our decision. I'm extremely grateful to our partners in the IFC for coming together to have this conference, the 5th chapter, in Goa. I am extremely grateful to Professor Pandit, Vice-Chancellor of my university, Jawaharlal Nehru, for agreeing after some persuasion to come and spend her Sunday at her old alma mater. I guess that was partly also the attraction. Thanks to Goa University for providing the volunteers and, as usual, the connection with Goa. And a special word of thanks to CAS and the very new director, Mr. Haack, who I may say that, though new to his job, very readily and wholeheartedly supported this event. In many ways, I think it points to the convergence of thinking between our two institutions about the significance of this collaboration for a variety of stakeholders across the spectrum. I welcome you once again, and I thank you for your attention.
The opening remarks by Professor Aparajita Gangopadhyay, Dean and Professor, School of International and Area Studies, Goa University.
Good morning. On behalf of the Vice-Chancellor of Goa University, Professor Harilal B. Menon, and Goa University, I welcome you all, delegates, speakers and participants at the 5th edition of India Forum on China at Goa. We are extremely pleased to be part of this edition as well. As you know that, and may be aware that we have been part of this academic exercise since the very beginning, when Goa University became the partner at the Institute of Chinese Studies along with the Konrad Adenauer-Stiftung Foundation to launch this very serious academic program at Goa. This was the time when Goa University was also the host of the 10th All India China Studies Conference in the year 2017. So in that sense, it's the 5th one. Given the seriousness of this initiative, the government of Goa also provided 3 positions, given that we were so much part of this program, provided 3 positions on China at the School of International and Area Studies at Goa University, Currently, the SIS, which is the School of International and Area Studies, not to be mixed with SIS, yes, offer courses on China, and you would be happy to know that out of all the students that are registered for their PhD program, currently 2 students are completely dedicated to working on China. So in that sense, we see a great academic, in sense of forward in this program. As students of international relations and area studies, we know that the road towards modernization with Chinese characteristics is represented by a set of complex political processes and enduring authoritarianism centered around the Communist Party of China. The recently concluded 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China's political control was displayed at a grander scale. China's profile in international relations underwent a decisive change in the aftermath of its opening in 1978 and achieved the fastest rate of economic growth as in the world. As China looked determined, the Chinese economy and its growth model were hailed high by the party elites by defining it as an alternative model of development to neoliberal globalization. Following the market socialism for 3 decades till China stumbled upon the global financial crisis, the market reforms in China led inexorably towards the capitalist and foreign-dominated development path. China's economic modernization intensified the contradictions internally, resulting in enormous social and political challenges. China attracts a great deal of debate in academic and policy-making circles on how it deploys and uses its enhanced comprehensive national power. China's economic successes invites intense and widespread reflection and speculation. Besides its increasingly active role in multilateral fora and other global institutions, China is also gradually creating a parallel multilateral economic institutions which are seen by many as an attempt to establish China's version and vision of global governance and to push a non-Western outlook in international relations. This was further intensified, has further intensified perceptions of the country as a rising global power that does not fit into the existing system of international relations institutions and poses a potential threat to the present global order. Ideas are critical to the clarity of debate on Communist Party of China and its central role in China's ascendancy. Some of the questions that one may raise is that in what perspective does the party, its leaders, and its elites see power? Or what kind of political control has been practiced by Chinese in the recent years? What would be the implications of such historical development on the structure of international relations? How might a power transition be managed peacefully given China's staggeringly destructive weapons and its intention to build more? And maybe have the reasons for the China threat perception changed globally? These questions and many more are at the forefront of contemporary debate among political and other social scientists, international relations scholars, policy analysts, government officials, journalists, business people, professionals, and everyday concerned citizens. This year's India Forum on China's theme exclusively focuses on the Communist Party of China's core role in China's comprehensive national rejuvenation. The understanding of the CPC, its tactics in controlling the state, nation building, the people's minds, and its approaches to main ideological legacies and resolution to developmental issues are elementary requirements for any scholar or policymaker seeking to grasp the new realities of China's rise and its strategic posture. On the behalf of Goa University, I welcome you all to beautiful Goa and hope that these deliberations and discussions are very fruitful and beneficial to all, especially the young scholars and students who are present here today. Goa University hopes to be more of a participatory nature in the next editions with greater academic and other inputs. Thank you.
Now we'll have the welcoming remarks from Mr. Adrian Haack, Director, Conrad, New Delhi. Welcome.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed an honor to welcome you to the 5th edition of the India Forum on China. This event is co-hosted by the Institute of Chinese Studies with the support of Konrad Adenauer Foundation and University of Goa. The India Forum on China has become a landmark event since its inception. It is a Sino-specific conference on the highest academic level, assembling experts on China in their respective fields. Experts from Israel, South Korea, New Delhi, Berlin, Taiwan, Australia, the US, and Turkey. Merhaba. Ladies and gentlemen, after the People's Party Congress, people all over the world have a question: what is China? And the question seems to be very easy, but in fact it's not. It has many answers. China is the most influential player on the global stage. China poses a military threat to multiple countries. China is a prospering economy, as far as we know. China is an oppressive regime violating human rights. China is one of the places where the technical future of mankind will be shaped. China is one of the pillars of Germany's prosperity and wealth. China is needed to face climate change. China is still the biggest country in the world, and China is, in many dimensions, a black box. Ladies and gentlemen, as a European, allow me to take, in this context, stance on Russia, because Russia is likewise disregarding human rights and is an aggressive dictatorship. However, Russia tried to commit a genocide in Ukraine, but it appears to be a suicide. Russia's economy remains insignificant apart from gas, without innovation, brain drain, politically instable, isolated in the world, and its army is halfway gone, navy and air force not seen for a while. And the coming decades will show whether People's Republic of China will take the same path. At the present point in time, this scenario appears quite likely and unlikely at the same time. China, on the second view, is far away of becoming an Asian version of Russia. Having the world's second largest economy, 1.4 billion people, 7 out of the 10 biggest ports, some of the best universities in the world, and not to forget some of the most innovative and advanced tech companies. China, in addition to its size, is a great civilization with passionate and intelligent people. And in comparison to Russia, even if there would be a regime change in Russia tomorrow, Russia would still remain Russia, undemocratic, illiberal, and brutal. While China could be different. At least Chinese civilization is already part of the free world. If we look at the sovereign and independent state of Taiwan, we see the other China. Democratic, respecting human rights, having a market economy, contributing to a rule-based international order. So at this point, a warm welcome to our friends from beautiful Taiwan. Welcome to Goa. So why do I mention Russia and Taiwan? The People's Republic of China can walk towards both direction Taiwan or direction Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, Chinese studies are therefore far beyond regional studies. The academic discourse cannot fail to expose the level of global interaction between China and other countries. China is actually significant and important for more or less all countries in the world. Looking just at Indo-Chinese relations, China is an essential trading partner for India, And at the same time, China is taking over India's neighborhood in the Indian Ocean. And it violates India's Himalaya borders. And I have to admit, way under the radar of European public discussion. So China poses a military threat to many states. And this targeting the neighborhood as Ladakh, Taiwan, South China Sea. Let's not forget Hong Kong. Let's also not forget Xinjiang. And China is, besides that, present in many countries with this Belt and Roads Initiative. And not least of all, China has facilitated a giant global catastrophe by its cover-up of the investigations surrounding the origin of COVID-19. The far-reaching effects we are still battling today. The Chinese virus COVID-19 harmed so many people all over the world, and China did not contribute anything positive in this global pandemic. Their lies in the beginning of the pandemic made everything worse and are kind of a crime towards the entire global community. So in this mindset, Germany, just like many other European countries or like Australia, is facing a difficult balancing act between business relation and a value-oriented foreign policy. German companies earn a lot of money at the Chinese market. And maybe this is why our Chancellor Olaf Scholz wanted to be the first Prime Minister visiting Mr. Xi Jinping after he became some kind of an emperor. And I personally, like many people in German politics and also German industry, don't appreciate this visit, but I can understand it very well. German politicians have to maneuver between economic interest and political interest, which are in the case of China far away from each other. And that's the hard reality decision makers face at many places of the world. And as we all know, the best decisions are based on knowledge. Therefore, it is my personal duty on this conference to learn. And I hope we can all learn from each other, learn from our different viewpoints all over the world. And ladies and gentlemen, I talked a lot about security because this is my field. But in the spirit of all this, let us not forget, China stands for much more than its dictatorship. And I'm a big admirer of Chinese wisdom, Chinese art, Chinese cuisine, and I still remember the friendly and inspiring people I met during my travels in China. So even though my personal field is the security, I'm very delighted and thankful to the Institute of Chinese Studies that it is covering such a tremendous amount of topics on the highest academic level during this conference. ICS brought together a tremendous amount of great experts from various countries and from various academic fields. It's just amazing. So distinguished guests, on behalf of Konrad Adenauer Foundation, thank you very much for coming here. Welcome to Goa, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
This year we are honored to have amidst us Professor Santishree Pandit, Vice-Chancellor, Jawaharlal Nehru University, for the keynote address. Ma'am, may I please request you to take the floor?
Good morning to all of you, respected guests on the dais, especially Professor Alka Acharya, my colleague at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, and also the Goa University Dean of School of International Studies, Aparajita Gangopadhyay, and of the Conrad Adenauer-Stiftung, Adrian Haack, and dear experts, students, faculty members, I'm so happy to be here this morning, and namaskar to all of you. Being happy because I joined in 1988 as soon as I was studying at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. My first job was at the Pune University, but the School of International Studies, now Latin America was there, not there. It was only the Department of Political Science, and that is where we used to teach IR. And I'm so happy to be back. I was here from 1988 to 1992 before I moved on to the Pune University. And I'm so happy once again, thank you Aparajita, to be back in Goa. So Sagadanna Maji Namaskar. Speaking on a very important topic, China, as rightly said by my previous speaker, is not just area studies. China is today, a revisionist state. And if you are talking about the international order, and that too the post-COVID international order, China becomes a very, very important player. And here we are discussing one of the largest party organizations, very unlike other party organizations, which started in July 1921 and still is going strong after 101 years. So is it a revolutionary party to a ruling party? How do you see this? Or how are we going to analyze this? And what holds the party together? A former secretary to Mao said, the Communist Party of China needs only two departments, one organization and the other propaganda. And I think it is here that the Stalinist view, we forget Stalin, who was one of the gurus of Mao. So if you see the strengths of the Communist Party when it has been functioning well, is that it has been a strong, unified, coherent organization. Xi sees this as a core element to drive forward his agenda and his policies, and that plays out through a number of ways. His control over key appointments and making sure that those in important leadership positions are faithful to the current leadership. It is also underpinned by the coherent narrative that holds the party and the members together, so that in the public they can tell the same story. Propaganda apparatus, the whole network of party schools, publications, and TV programs, which puts forward the Communist Party that is all good about China and portrays different aspects of its history. What is forgotten is there's a coercive apparatus. You cannot compare a democratic state or democratic states with that of China or even Russia. If you fall outside the realms of the permissible, there is a strong coercive apparatus that will come down harshly upon you. The party is always there, but you can't always see it. Citizens always know that there is a limit to what they can do that is bound by whatever the party is deciding at a particular time. It is obviously the core institution in China at a political level. If you want to understand China, you need to understand the party and its relationships with the different aspects of society and the system. And looking at the trajectory of the last 101 years, what is constant and what has changed? First, to shake the global order. I'm sure not necessarily to overthrow it, but China wants to say that it is a very important player and it is contesting both the US and the Western order. Recently, even the Indian External Affairs Minister made very strong comments about Europe and the West. So if you see to a logic, why am I saying it? India and China are the only two civilization states to enter the fourth industrial revolution. So are we in a post-Westphalian order where you have to move from the concept of the nation state to a civilization state? Two, do you have to go beyond binaries in narratives to concentric circles? Because both China and India will not fit your binaries. It is not either or. It can be one and everything else. Understand the ambivalence about the role of private sector in the economy. The founders of the party wanted to get rid of it of the private sector entirely. The party has been forced to embrace it in one way or the other. Adaptability and flexibility is that the party has been successful by allowing localities to adapt cultural adapt central directives and to apply them in a way to their particular circumstances. Reality on the ground much more complex. One classic phrase that the Chinese use is the mountains are high and the emperor is far away. They have their policies and we have our countermeasures. New regulation comes in often and their first reaction is, okay, how do we get around this? Which is very similar with India also. Any law comes, we are the first ones to find a loophole, how to get around it. Sort of tacit acknowledgement that there has been to be what to have to those escape valves and ways in which localities could take central directives and bend them to their own interests as long as certain core things were not confronted directly. What would we, Z basically has reasserted central control and strengthened and boosted and fortified and the discipline of the party to push his policies forward. Many people, I believe, not only is he an emperor, but he has moved into the Stalinistic phase of party leadership. Market Leninism, to describe China today. Strong organized hierarchy at the core dictating policy and political processes. So even though much of Marxism is gone in terms of daily life and daily practice, the idea of the Leninist party has remained. I would say Stalinist party has remained. I would call the Communist Party of China the largest and the biggest transnational corporation of the world. So we'll have to look at our definitions of transnational and multinational corporations. Xi Jinping wants to reassert, and as most of you know, the most important thing I see about him is he's talking about China's cultural traditions. He talks about the importance of Marxism, and he uses it in certain ways. For example, his view of historical materialism means that there is an inevitable rise of the East and the decline of the West. Economic performance is one, promoting a much stronger story around nationalism. Xi talks about the CCP being the inheritor of China's fine cultural traditions. Environmental degradation in China has been a part and parcel of the Communist Party's approach to development. So China also follows cultural nationalism. Different narratives are an anathema, and Xi, especially his policy towards Tibet, trade, and Taiwan, is something that is very worrisome, and the way he has taken over Hong Kong also is very, very worrisome. But please remember, nobody in the West even bleated like a lamb. So nobody is protesting to what is happening. And foreign investment is going to at least be constant, if not come down in China. Now to certain implications to the global order. What are the security implications to the T3? What I call the T3, T is trade, Tibet, and Taiwan. Is China a revisionist power? What are the core interests of China? It says sovereignty and territorial integrity of China, and it wants all the neighborhood to be under it. But there is no protest when China does it to us. But it is not the same when Russia does it to Ukraine. What are the maintaining the primacy of the Communist Party of China? Islands militarization, maintenance of economic growth. One is Russia-China relationship. It is much more complex than what is seen above. One has to know that it's much deeper than what we think it is. Then the post-COVID order, where nowhere in the world people are ready to call out the movement of the virus from Wuhan to the world. 4.4 million affected, 600,000 deaths. Why is the West quiet about it? It is, what is the question? China wants to be the pivot of Asia. Russia is with China in it. But whereas we have the Quad, where it's not an alliance yet, it's just a meeting ground of the AUKUS and others. How are we going to redefine the Indo-Pacific? Or what Shinzo Abe called the arc of democracy. Do democracies really come together? Or are we so shabby that we can't get our house in order? The other is the theaterization and modernization of the PLA, especially artificial intelligence. And with this, I want to touch information warfare. This is something in India we have had, and China is doing it very well. I would maybe include Russia as well. And here I would see that these are testing times of transition for the democratic world order, of which India is also a part. But unfortunately, realism works where each has to fight their own battles. I don't think the other countries come to our help. I would only tell scholars that you have to look at China not through binaries, not to either or, but rather through concentric circles and complexities of the world order. And China is here to stay, and we in India cannot wish it away. It is either a rival, if not an adversary. Once again, I wish this 5th India Forum on China at Goa a very grand success, and I hope that there will be papers that will greatly enlighten us in new narratives, which is even more important, and innovating in the world order. And I hope there are more narratives coming from the East as Xi hopes for the rise of the East. Thank you.
To the closure of the inaugural session of the 5th India Forum on China, I feel honored and privileged to get this opportunity to deliver the vote of thanks. An event of this dimension cannot happen overnight, so the wheels started rolling months in advance, and we were very fortunate to be backed by an eminent team of experts who guided us right from the beginning. Some of them were able to join us today, but some were not. Nonetheless, I'd like to thank one and all who have contributed in the conceptualizing of this year's IFC. On behalf of the organizing team, I'd like to convey my deep regards and hearty thanks to Professor Santishree Pandit, Honorable Vice-Chancellor, Jawaharlal Nehru University, for taking the time from a busy schedule to travel to Goa and to join us, and for delivering an exceptionally thought-provoking keynote address. Unfortunately, we were unable to have the Vice-Chancellor of Goa University, Professor Harilal B. Menon, with us today, but we are joined by Professor Aparajita Gangopadhyay. Thank you, ma'am, for your kind opening remarks. A very special thanks to our partners, Konrad, Adenauer-Stiftung, New Delhi, and Goa University for partnering with us and for helping us make this forum a success for the 5th year. Mr. Adrian Haack, we are truly delighted for this partnership. We are open to new ideas and would love to find more ways to work together in the future. I'd also like to express my gratitude to the Center for Advanced Policy Research and Initiatives, CAPRI, and the US Embassy for your contributions. A very special thanks to the delegates for accepting our invitation, for sharing your valuable research and experience with this forum, to all the speakers who have traveled from far and near to join us. Please accept my sincere gratitude. I'm extremely excited for your presentation, as is everyone else in this room. Thank you so much for coming. This year, we decided to go for an open event instead of a closed-door conference, and the response to this was overwhelming. We received multiple messages and emails from people who wanted to join us, and as I see, many have traveled to attend the forum. So I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to our guests as well. Finally, a special note of appreciation for our dedicated team of volunteers. From Goa University, Arya, Vandana, Wahid, Divya, Simran, Gagan, and Abid, and my colleagues from the ICS. I cannot thank everyone enough for the involvement that they have shown and the willingness they have expressed to take the completion of tasks. With this, I'd like to conclude the inaugural session. We shall now take a small break for tea and resume at 11:30. Our first session is titled Party Governance and Leadership. Thank you.
The most female panel.